Hello there, Superboy fans, and welcome to another episode of our Superboy show. I don't even know what to call this one. We were going to record a couple of commentaries today, but Sam sent me a file last night that is quite rare. I've certainly never heard it before. I doubt many of you have. But today we're going to be listening to a very rare audio interview with Scott Wells, aka Season 1's Lex Luthor.
Holy shit.
Yeah, talking about Superboy as well. I didn't know he'd done any interviews talking about Superboy. So this is, I've had this file since yesterday. I've still not even listened to it myself. I didn't even tell Chris until this moment what it is we're reacting to, because I thought it'd be much more fun to actually make it a surprise, because who knew this even existed, apart from obviously the person interviewing him. But
right.
Yeah. Do you want to get into it?
All right, let's do this.
Awesome.
Back.
You're with Starlog and Comic Scene.
Right.
Is that, what exactly is that? Starlog. Is that a special effects magazine?
It's a movie. No, actually, it's a magazine that covers special effects, but it's mostly a magazine about science fiction and fantasy and film.
I see.
And Comic Scene looks at comic books and also film adaptations of comic books.
Uh-huh. Fabulous.
Yeah, so they're fun publications. I mean, if you like that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. I like it all.
There we go. That's what it's for.
Very good. So we'll have to send you copies of them if you're interested.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, you can check them out.
Okay.
So, you're Lex.
Lex Luthor.
Talk to me. How did you get the role of Lex Luthor?
It just came out of the blue, just from an interview, like any other interview, and you go on it and hope that you do that you do well. And they called the next day and said I got it. It was overwhelming, actually, because this is not something that I would have thought that I would have been, picked for. People are starting to make these Gene Hackman's comments and what have you, and I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed with all of that.
What do you mean, making comparisons and things?
Yeah, and of course I'm not Gene Hackman, and hope today someday be as brilliant of an actor as Gene Hackman.
Right. But I mean, I guess what people are doing, and it's sort of in my mind, I've done the same thing, is I have this vision of you sitting down and watching what Hackman did with the character in the films.
Yeah, definitely, and I definitely have done that, and I definitely am going to continue doing that. I've always studied his work, and of course I'm not going to try to imitate him, but I'm going to try to get the same point across in less time, of course, with a half-hour show.
Yeah, it's a bit tougher, I guess, huh?
Well, it's quicker, it's just quicker, and there's not as much time to get involved with the character as there is, hit the mark and get your dialogue out. But it's the feeling behind that I'm trying to get, that Lex is the greatest criminal mind of all time. And, of course, he's younger and a little bit more obnoxious,
I mean, do you bring across that, I mean, I don't know if the scripts are reflecting this or not, but do you bring across sort of the wise-ass Luthor that Hackman did? I mean, are the scripts trying to reflect that? Or?
Yeah, I think so. The relationship between my partner and I, Leo, what they're calling him rather than Otis.
Okay.
Is a pretty slick guy, and it's a different relationship, I think, than the relationship that he had with Otis. Mm-hmm. And he's I think almost onto my level, but he wants to be like me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
okay. Let's pause it there for a second at 2:47. So, never like speaking ill of the dead.
Neither do I.
I like that he wanted to bring some of Gene Hackman's portrayal of Lex to what he did. I don't know if he ever succeeded, but it is really interesting to know that that's sort of the way he was approaching it, basically.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to hear that he just, he basically had an interview and the next day they said, you've got the job. Like, it seems like it was a pretty easy process.
Yeah,
I think it's fascinating just to hear a little bit about it.
Oh, wow. I had never heard this before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing from the way that he's talking that this interview's from 1988, because
Yeah, probably,
he's talking about it in the future tense. Like, he's talking about it as what he's going to do. Like, he's clearly not been fired yet. Like, before I listened to this, I was assuming that it was an interview maybe from like a year or two after the show had ended or something. But it seems now that this is from 88.
Yeah, either 88 or very early 89 before he would just let go.
Yeah.
But
that's fascinating to hear him actually talking about it, because
now I got to see if I can find the Starlog and Comic Scene magazines where they did this interview.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because it's a magazine, like it's 1988. I doubt that they included like a free CD with it to listen to the interview. So I'm guessing that this was recorded so that it could be typed up later. Yeah. So apart from Ed Gross, who actually did the interview, we may be some of the first to actually hear this in a while, apart from obviously Sam and anyone else that Ed Gross has sent it to over the years.
I mean, whether or not your Luthor, with the way they're writing it and all, is with the wise ass comment, the wise ass attitude that the Gene Hackman Luthor had.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I'm getting that point across as well as he did, but I think that I'll grow into it. I've only worked with them 1 week, and of course anything could happen. I think they could call me tomorrow and say, Scott.
They'd only been shooting for 1 week.
So this is right around Jula Technical.
Yeah.
Wow.
They may not have even finished. I'm guessing it was shot quickly, so they probably have finished shooting that episode. But at this point, yeah, this is 1 week into production. This is nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we've made no claims that we're huge fans of Scott Wells' performance. Like, I think we've often said he might just be the worst Lex Luthor of all time. But this is kind of like a holy grail.
I don't know. I think Jesse Eisenberg kind of takes that cake.
I think Jesse Eisenberg at least gave a solid performance for what he wanted to do. It wasn't Lex.
Yeah.
But it was a performance. Yeah. Luthor Unleashed, I think Scott Wells did very well. But, So, yeah, this is 1 week into production. He's worked with them for 1 week. I mean, the production probably continued a little bit longer than that, because obviously Countdown to Nowhere was supposed to be the pilot. But, yeah.
Yeah, so this is only 1 week into Jula Technical.
Yeah. Fascinating.
We're going to go a different way with this character.
Right.
We both know happens so frequently in this business.
Oh, sure.
So,
what has been the approach so far?
Did he just say that he's only worked with them a week, and they may say that we're going to go in a different direction with this character?
Yeah.
So he already kind of had an idea that they might replace him 1 week into working.
Well, he's an actor, so I mean,
I guess. I mean, you always hear stories about the making of like Back to the Future, where Christopher Lloyd and the guy that played Biff, they thought they were going to be fired, just like Eric Stoltz, until the production had even wrapped. So it's maybe that's just actors' low self-esteem, but it's kind of It's kind of a weird glimpse into the future. In a way. He's already talking about the fact that they might go in a different direction and replace him. Like, that's nuts.
So what has been there and your interpretation of the character?
Well, I'm trying to bring across the fact that I'm rich, elegant, of course, without being feminine. Trying to get to some of the more elegant, like hand and wrist movements in a short time, and trying to establish the fact that what he says goes. Right. And that he's so full of himself that he wouldn't have any idea if something else was going around him or not. He's very self-indulgent.
Right.
And these are some of the things that I'm trying to bring out.
Right. Okay. Well, with when we first heard about the series, when the announcers started coming out, they're saying Luthor is in college with Clark Kent and Lana Lang.
Right.
Is that true? You are?
Yes, it's in the younger years. Lex Luthor is a senior, president of the senior class.
Yeah.
And Superboy is a freshman.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Right, 3 years older.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit wiser until he turns into Superboy, and then he's a little stronger.
Right.
But even though Lex Luthor is usually foiled in the end, he still thinks that he's the greatest criminal mind, and that Superboy has nothing on him.
Mm-hmm. But how do you balance a student with the greatest criminal mind of our time? I mean, without the criminal mind being thrown in jail at the end of the episode.
Well, because of who his father is. Father is the third richest man in the world.
Yeah.
Or in the country, I should say, pardon me. And I think he kind of uses that. I mean, if he can't get something done with his own mind, he buys it.
Yep. That's an interesting bit of backstory to Scott Wells' version of Lex. Because it's certainly not what continued into season 4 with No Line Enemy.
Yeah.
In season 4, Lex's father is, trash, basically. Who beat him and his sister and his mother. Now at least in season 1, Lex's father was the third richest man in the world. You figured that Lex had to come from wealth somehow, but I don't know if that was ever outright stated until now.
I believe there was a line in Julia Techikal where he does, or one of the other 3 episodes he was in, where he does say an extremely rich father.
Right. See, I completely forgotten that. So I do think it's interesting though.
But of course, we can always retcon this that was just a lie that nobody would check on. Yeah.
But now from this interview, it sounds like no, that was what the writers were thinking at the time. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when TV shows start out, often actors will come up with like a file on their characters where they write their character's history. Like, I know that when they made Star Trek Deep Space Nine, that Andrew Robinson, who played Garak, had practically written an entire book about Garak and his history and the Cardassians, and I think he did even adapt it into a novel later on. But it's like actors do that quite regularly. But I think it's a cool bit of information to know that Scott Wells is Lex. Like, his father was the third richest man on the planet. Like, something I kind of wish they brought up in the show a little bit more. Maybe had an episode with Lex's father. I don't know, but
okay, Tom. When we do season 5 episodes with Lex, we're going to have to address that.
Yeah, we'll find a way.
And I'm sure, including the dean, I know that my father has donated the gym and the library and some other things to the college even. So it's pretty much just set that he's the rich, spoiled brat kid who's going to do what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants.
Right.
And I think the law breaking and the criminal stuff is out of boredom, just for sheer entertainment.
That's interesting. Okay.
But that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it reads to me. But now I've only read 2 of the scripts.
I think he's got a point about season 1's Lex. He's got enough money that he doesn't need to be a criminal, but he's bored.
Yeah.
And he's sort of doing it for attention. And yeah, I think that's an interesting insight that I wouldn't necessarily have gotten from Scott Wells without hearing this interview, because again, I don't like to talk bad on people.
It's raising my opinion of Scott Wells.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, he did a lot of things that Michael Mano has kind of discussed with us in the past. But, he at least was thinking ahead as to what he was doing. He was actually putting a lot of thought into this. He was doing what Alan Moore does when he writes a story.
Yeah. It's just a shame that it didn't come across in the performance, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it seems like he had everything. He had the right idea in his head. He just couldn't put it on screen somehow. And I think that's quite sad, actually.
Yeah.
It's casting a bit more of a tragic light on Scott Wells' time as the greatest criminal mind of our college.
I mean, what are you doing?
In this first one is called The Jewel of Techikal. which is some Mayan artifacts that have been discovered by Professor Lang, and he's bringing them back to Schuster. And of course, I want them.
Okay.
They're worth
for no reason except that.
Because they're worth a lot of money.
Right. Okay.
Leo, those artifacts are being touted as the find of the century. They must be worth $1 million.
Right.
And I don't know if you can really determine whether it's the $1 million I want, or just the fact that I want them because they've been touted as the find of the century, or just because just to see if I can do it or get away with it.
Right.
And I think it might be a little bit of all of the above. Mm-hmm. And of course, Superboy, is going to try to get the jewel back and get it back to a safe place.
Right. And how about the second story? What happens in that with you?
I haven't read it completely because there's so many revisions being done right now, but it's called The Fixer, and it has to do with fixing basketball games. I do know that much.
Huh, okay. So it sounds like, I had spoken to Stacy, who's playing Lana, last week, and she mentioned that there was a story with a laser cannon or something, or a laser gun. So it sounds like they're doing a real gambit of stories from the fixing of basketball teams to laser weapons.
Right. Well, I think that the special effects are going to be outstanding.
Do you?
Yes, I do. They're doing it on film rather than tape.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
The special effects are going to be outstanding.
Well, not for nothing, Tom.
The flying worked. The flying was good.
For late 1980s, they looked really good.
I don't know. I just find that funny.
Remember,
Everyone watching this knows how much we love Superboy.
Yeah.
We would never say the special effects are outstanding, especially in season 1.
Well, remember, I started watching this show when I was almost 14. So
that's fair enough.
I was still pretty much a kid.
Yeah. But it is fascinating, though, just hearing some of this that he's talking about. And he mentioned, obviously, the interviewer, Ed Gross, had mentioned just then that he'd spoken to Stacy the week before.
Yeah.
I wonder if Sam's got that interview anywhere. If he
Probably does.
I'll have to speak to him about getting hold of it at some point, because I think that could be a fun sequel to this episode that we're doing. But
so I think that's what they're really, they're going, and it's a half-hour show.
Yeah. So
they're going for that younger audience with the special effects and what have you, I think. And I think that they're going to, I like even fixing the basketball game. I haven't read it completely, but I can see having Leo put a transmitter inside the ball in the grandstand, transmitting the ball where I want it to go.
Oh, right.
With some type of special device built to my specifications. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That type of attitude. Built to my specifications. Leo by the top craftsman in the world.
Okay, pause. Pause there. One, I like his sense of humor just then. He's almost fell into character as Lex right at the end there.
Yeah.
But is that an alternate plot for the Fixer? Where he had some scientific device in the ball, so he's remote controlling the ball at the basketball game?
It could be.
I don't know how they would have pulled that off at the time.
Yeah, but remember, he also did just say that he hadn't read it all the way through.
Yeah, I'm wondering that's like an early draft. Maybe they decided that's beyond our budget. We'll have to change it. But
but then you can still chalk it up to the fact that he hasn't read the whole script all the way through.
Yeah, he might. He's probably just thinking ahead, guessing. Yeah. But obviously earlier they mentioned not just Jordan Tetracal and the Fixer, but they also mentioned Lex and his laser gun. So obviously Luthor Unleashed was in the works.
No, they were mentioning. I think the laser gun they were mentioning, I think, was Countdown to Nowhere.
Right. Oh, so like stealing the laser. Oh yeah, no lasers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm guessing because obviously he said that was from the interview with Stacy, so obviously that must be why. But just for a second there, I thought maybe they were already thinking ahead to Luthor Unleashed. But
then again, you never know. You never know.
You never know.
They might have been thinking ahead.
Yeah, they might have known this is where it's heading and just didn't know how they were going to get there at that point. But...
then I'm fooling myself because I think that I'm brilliant.
Right. No, I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm curious. Don't take this wrong. Is this you might bristle with this, but is this a kiddie show or is this more for everybody?
Everybody. I think from from junior high, I think, or elementary school, into college, and I think it's going to be a smash with college students themselves because we're in college, and I can see them sitting in their dormitories watching this,
Right.
and comparing the characters to people at their own school, even, as well as a family show because of the time slot. I believe they're looking for like a 7:30.
Yeah, in New York, it's going to be on 7:30 on Channel 4.
Channel 4. Now, who is that?
That's NBC.
Perfect.
Yeah, they picked it up.
All right.
Yeah, so that is good news.
Have they picked it up nationwide? Do you know?
Not NBC has. No, they haven't.
In New York.
Maybe NBC has. I'm not sure how it works with NBC. I know they have New York. I'm not sure if it's all their affiliates as well.
They really don't tell me anything except for here's your script and by God, stay in your classes and work on it. You know.
Of course.
Yeah.
You don't have to know where it's playing. Just as long as it's on your TV or you got a tape of it, don't worry about it.
Right. Just do your job, kid. You know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think people are excited about it because it'll be a fun series, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I could see even it being a little campy, even, you know. Yes, at least my character seems that the director has me a little bigger than life, I guess I could say. At least to me it feels that way. I haven't seen the daily.
Certainly was campy.
But everyone's being real, and then I feel like this sinister Darth Vader character coming in, you know.
Okay. Well, I mean, Luthor in the movies, if they are trying to base it at all on that, was much larger than life. I mean, you know, with his underground.
But he's so good that you can almost not detect that. And you know, I need, you know, to continue working on that character.
Right.
Like you said earlier, I think our opinion of Scott Wells is increasing with this interview. I love the fact that he's not content with the way that he's playing it at this point. And he keeps, one thing he keeps saying is that he needs to keep working on it.
Yeah.
I like that. I have a lot of respect for that attitude when you're working in TV, film, whatever. Like, if he wants his performance to get better.
Yeah. It's just a shame that things did not go the way they needed to.
Well, obviously he was having some personal problems and stuff. We know this from what Michael has told us, but part of me wonders if those personal issues weren't happening, maybe they would have kept him on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they did see some potential in where he was taking it. But
well, obviously they had to have seen some potential, you know, the fact that they hired him, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, from what he said, they hired him based on an interview. They interviewed him and they offered him the role the next day. Like, that's, you would think, I mean, in this day and age, let's face it, they'd be auditioning a couple of hundred actors easily, and they would just keep having callbacks, and then they would be brought in for, you know, what's the word, chemistry reads, and stuff like that. And yeah, clearly they saw something in Scott Wells, and I don't know, the more I'm listening to him speak about it, I'm starting to see it too.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, they used Lynn Stallmaster, who was actually the casting, you know, director from the Superman films.
Yeah, he's the guy you see on the making of documentaries. Like, he did Tootsie as well, I think. And
yeah, and I mean, Lynn Stallmaster is the one that pushed for Christopher Reeve, you know, and you know, he must have seen something. He must have.
Maybe he thought, you know, an acting coach on set, we can mold him into the perfect Lex Luthor, and just didn't work out for whatever reason. But
well, you know, they had the acting coach on set, and it
worked for Luthor Unleashed. I mean, it's not a great performance in Luthor Unleashed, but he's 100% better than he was in Jewel of Technical. That's for sure. Like, you can see him improving. I would have loved to have seen what Scott Wells would have done by season 4.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he would have been one of the best Lex Luthors ever by season 4. But it's one of those things where we cannot say. It's completely just guessing. But I doubt he would have been. I think Sherman Howard was by far and away the better choice. But, you know, it's... Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least in the case of Howard, you know, he definitely was evoking Gene Hackman. You know, he was doing everything that Scott Wells intended to do.
Yeah. That's the saddest thing about this. He's all of these brilliant ideas and intentions, and he's got all these he knows exactly what he wants to do with the character, but he just unfortunately didn't have the talent to back it up. Like he didn't have the talent to put it on the screen. And maybe some of that's down to the directing, but you know, who can say at this point? Because
I mean, one of his best episodes obviously is Kryptonite Kills.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
he's not in it very much though.
He's not in it very much.
And it's only a 20-minute episode. So when he's not in a 20-minute episode very much, like he probably only had 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah. And you got to remember that Jackie Cooper was, even though he was a talented actor since the 1930s, you know, this was probably one of his earliest directing gigs. So he might not have been.
He might have still been sort of, testing the waters kind of thing.
Yeah, he's still been green as a director. I mean, look at his job on The Invisible People.
Yeah. An episode, I've said 1,000 times, fantastic idea for an episode, terrible execution.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame. But I wonder if maybe the Salkinds had owed Jackie Cooper a favor or something, and he was just like, I want to get into directing more. Can you throw me a couple of episodes of your show so I can practice? Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
You can't say, but it's it's interesting.
So what is appealing to you about Lex Luthor? What is appealing about him?
I like the fact that he's a bad boy. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun. The guy is out to have fun, or to be just so self-indulgent. It almost gives me a chance to become just as self-indulgent, at least when it comes to my dressing room and my character and my trying to get ready for the role itself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fun.
Right.
The dialogue and the vocabulary is very appealing to me because it's something that I've always felt that I needed to work on, and this has given me the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Because he is a genius, or in his own mind is a genius, and is educated and what have you, which basically has given me a chance to stretch because I didn't finish college and what have you, and I'm just flattered to be part of the history itself of the Superboy and Superman Marvel. The whole thing. I don't think these characters have ever been played yet, except for in the comics themselves.
Right. Oh, you're absolutely right.
So I'm hoping that the cult, the Superman cult, and what have you, will at least turn in with interest just to see who is playing their character, and the challenge of wondering if I can pull this off or not.
Right.
Okay, pause. Do you remember when we interviewed Michael and he said that Scott Wells acted more like Lex Luthor when the cameras weren't rolling than when they were?
Yeah.
Now Scott Wells is talking about the fact that he's almost, what he's describing is, it's method acting.
Yeah.
I wonder if this explains a little bit why he was a bit of a prick on the set. He was in character.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, as soon as he started talking about that, I was just like, that actually explains a lot.
Yeah.
This interview is wild. Like, I'm learning so much.
That whole comment that he made about, being self-indulgent in his own personal life.
Yeah. That explains a lot too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it explains the way that he died, basically. Didn't he die of an overdose?
Listed as a heart condition.
Right.
But, all those years of drug use probably exacerbated it.
Sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, yeah, it makes me sad as well, because what he just said a minute ago about how the Superman... I mean, he referred to us as the Superman cult, which I kind of like. I like the idea of a fandom being referred to as a cult. It's just fun.
Yes, but we're a good cult. We're not
a good cult. We just get together and talk about comics.
Yeah. We don't ask for money. We don't ask you to do other things.
Yeah. But what he said about how hopefully they'll tune in out of interest just to see who's playing their boy, and seeing if he can pull it off. he really set himself up for disappointment there. Because judging by the fans' opinions now, I don't know how well received Scott Wells was at the time, but I'm guessing it was about the same as now. I know Michael Mano said that one review actually said that the only reason Leo is there to make Lex Luthor look good. Yeah. So obviously some people were commenting on it, but yeah.
I gotta say, there were moments where, as a kid, I thought that he was awful, and then there were moments where I thought that he was pretty on point.
Mostly in Luthor Unleashed and Kryptonite Kills.
Yeah.
Like his moments of good, he had some good moments, but unfortunately they were just too few and far between.
Yeah, but they, as we've talked about it before, the acting coach was getting him from Jula Technikal up to his ability in Luthor Unleashed. They did make.
It's a definite improvement. I would have loved to have seen what another year would have done.
Yeah.
Because in the comic book, Lex Luthor and Superboy were once friends who became bitter enemies. I don't know if you're...
Right, over the hair.
Right, well, yeah, it's a pretty stupid reason, but yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's really a dumb reason. To become somebody's lifelong enemy and become a criminal genius because you lost your hair. I mean...
And they would adapt this very story.
Yeah. So is that all gone, though? I mean,
Oh, no, we're going to go that route. I don't think that we're really friends. We're aware of each other. I spit on him mainly because of an insecurity, I think. Maybe, I think that I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the strongest, I'm the most powerful. Anyone who proves me differently or gets a write-up in a newspaper or what have you frustrates me. Not because of the publicity, but just because maybe I'm insecure with myself.
Right.
I need to know for myself that I'm the greatest.
And Superboy is showing you up, so to speak.
Well, he's superhuman.
Yeah.
And I'd like to feel that I'm... In fact, I make a comment, to Lana that I got some tickets to a rock and roll concert that were impossible to get, and it took a superhuman effort. But I'm trying to keep my head above and say, hey, I'm as good as he is.
Right. Because he can leap tall buildings in a single bound, but you were able to get rock tickets.
Right. He can leap tall buildings, and I have to take the elevator. And so the challenge is can I compete with him when we get in the same room together?
Right. And I assume that Luthor can compete with him when he gets in the same room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. At least I would like to think so. I guess when we see the show, we'll see exactly.
Sure.
But as far as doing the scenes themselves, I feel like the two are going to be good rivalry.
Good chemistry between you and John Hamm?
Absolutely.
Rather? I'm sorry.
Newton.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's wonderful. He's a wonderful actor. He's a nice guy off and on the set. He's done everything in his power to give me 100% to work with. And I hope that he is as happy with my performance as I am with his. I mean, I think that John is going to be, from Superboy, the superstar.
It's very nice of you to say.
I wish that had happened.
How about a little background on yourself, though?
It's nice to hear him being so flattering about John Newton. I wish that he had gone from Superboy to Superstar, because I think he I mean, I've made it no secret, I do prefer Gerard in the role. Yeah. But John Newton was really, really good. It's... I may prefer Gerard, but it was so close,
Yeah.
It's just nice hearing about it. And it's funny just listening to him talk about playing this role, because I know I've said it before, but he really seems to get it. And
yeah.
How about a little background on yourself, though?
Born in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
Went to high school in Sarasota, Florida for a while. Decided that acting is what I was going to do. Left college after about 3/4 of a year, getting into girls, not realizing that it was a schooling that I actually needed.
Okay.
And
it's a common mistake among American men. I don't know what. Okay.
I'm trying to make up for it.
Okay.
And headed out to L.A. with a suitcase and an old 72 Nova and stopped in Texas on the way and started doing print work there. Ran into a good job, and so I didn't really get to L.A. for another 2 years after that.
When you say print work, what do you mean?
Modeling.
Oh, okay.
Modeling print. And came out here and got a cover for my first professional print job. I was really excited, and I thought, well, as long as I can keep continuing to improve, then I would pursue this.
Right.
And I've just been battling away, knocking on doors, going to classes every day. I slept on the beach my first week out here.
Really?
Worked at a hot dog stand and for about a week until I decided, well, I'm going to try this modeling out here. And I've taken all the money. It became quite successful with the modeling, although I never really intended to go that route.
Right.
And I used all of that money to sink back into acting classes and voice and diction and dialects and just acting. That was all I could think about. I would eat out of tuna fish cans and make sandwiches at home and just be home and think, like, put myself through college, so to speak, because I felt guilty about not finishing college.
The infamous school of hard knocks, in other words.
Precisely. You've heard the story a million times. 15 years of hard work to be an overnight success.
Absolutely.
And when I first came out here, I thought, yeah, well, I'm not buying that. I found out the hard way that you have to do your work. And whether you're studying law or medicine or whatever field that you're in, if you want to be one of the best in your profession, then you have to continually work at it.
Right. Now, how old are you now?
I'm 25.
Okay. And one of the leads in the TV series. It's not too shabby.
Thank you very much. I'm feeling really good. Now, if I can just hang on to it.
Well, I understand that. Originally I thought it was committed to 26 episodes, but I heard now it's 13, and they're going to see how they play it.
I think it's a 13 with a 13 option, but I couldn't be sure, so please don't quote me on that.
No problem. How many episodes are you supposed to be in? Do you know yet?
Supposedly, out of the first 13, they had me for 2, and now they're talking about the 3rd already.
Oh, good.
So evidently, they think I can grow into this.
Well,
or evidently, they're liking what I'm doing.
Right.
And I'm just going to continue to try to, get better and better at it.
So
the TV is a new thing for me. I've been doing little things on film, and it seems to be like a slower pace, more thinking involved, more feeling.
Right.
And the TV is a lot faster pace for me.
Oh, sure.
And a lot more dialogue oriented rather than feel.
Okay, let's pause for a second. I feel really bad for him now.
Yeah.
Because that is a tough thing. He slept on the beach for a week. Like, he was eating, basically surviving off of cans of tuna fish, and he put the work in. And I wonder, he's talking about how film is a lot slower and that he felt more suited to it. I wonder if he was actually a pretty decent actor, if he just had enough prep time. But yeah, I'm just really sad about the idea that when he said, I hope I can hold on to this job.
It's almost like he could predict the future.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things in this where it seems like he's predicting the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured this interview probably would get a little bit sad at times. I didn't expect it to be quite so heartbreaking, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I the only thing from any of this interview that I already knew beforehand was that he'd done some modeling work before acting. Because I think I've seen one or two of those modeling photos at some point. I'm sure I've seen them at some point. But man.
Wow.
And he sounds so optimistic as well. Like, he started talking about they had him for 2 and they're already talking about a 3rd. And it would obviously end up being, I think it's 4 episodes in season 1 in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which even that's hardly anything. It's like a 24, 25 episode season and he's only in 4 of them. Like, yeah, I wish they'd given him a couple more episodes just so we could have seen a little bit more growth. But
yeah,
what can you do? Anyway, we're almost done now. Less than a minute to go. Let's see how this ends.
Have as much time, to tell a story, or in this case, a quarter as much time.
Sure, half an hour. That's got to be tough,
right?
But what films have you been in?
I did a small feature with James Woods in The Boost in his new Hemdell film.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I did a small feature with Powers Booth in Into the Homeland for HBO last year.
Mm-hmm.
It had the #1 music video in the country out for the summer.
What was it?
Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine.
Oh, really?
Anything for You.
You were in that?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the song goes Anything for You. Do-do-do-do.
Right.
You've heard it. Sure.
Oh, yeah. And you're the you?
Right.
Okay.
And it's quite different than.
And unfortunately, that's where the audio cuts off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've said almost everything. I think I've said everything I wanted to. Obviously, we've been pausing throughout. But, man, as sad as it is, a lot of the elements of that, what a thoroughly enjoyable listen. I'm so glad, like, Ed Gross, the guy that was actually interviewing on it, thank you for sending the file to Sam, and thank you, Sam, for forwarding it on to me so we could do an episode on it.
Right.
But, man, heartbreaking, fascinating, even funny in places. Like,
yeah,
my opinion of Scott Wells has increased as a result of this, seeing a little bit more of his thought process behind it. Because I just assumed that his performance was bad, one, because he was a poor actor, and two, because he didn't get the character. But from this, he clearly did get the character.
Yeah, he got the character, and he did have the talent. I mean, they wouldn't have used him in movies before this.
Yeah.
Especially...
I mean, it was small parts. I think he did one episode of a TV show after this, and it was as party goer number 2 or something.
Yeah.
Like, it was... So it's sad. It's a sad ending for it, but I mean, loads of the actors from season 1 didn't do very much after. I can't remember what, we love Michael Manno, but I'm not sure how many TV shows he was in after Superboy.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we know that John eventually landed a role on the short-lived Untouchables TV series,
which I've heard good things about. Actually, that's something I wouldn't mind watching at some point if I can find a copy. I've heard it's pretty good. I've heard it's not it's nothing hugely groundbreaking, but I've heard it's actually a pretty good show for what it is.
I watched it all the time just because it was John.
Never even seen it. At some point I will have to, thoroughly enjoyable to listen to this. Yeah, I just feel really bad for Scott Wells. I kind of wish things had gone a little bit differently, perhaps.
Yeah, me too.
I've got nothing else to say on this. I think we should just wrap it up. If there's anything else you want to...
No, I think we've pretty much said it all. I mean, he had the drive to do it. He had the thought process on it. It's just the execution was not 100%.
Yeah,
I'll just say,
And like he was talking about the differences between shooting film and TV. He said film's a lot slower paced. He's got more time to really get into the feeling of the character. TV, obviously, especially a low budget show like Superboy, they were probably having to shoot so quickly.
Yeah,
it was probably most of what he was doing was probably just trying to keep his lines memorized. And yeah, it's just a sad situation. And yeah, again, thank you, Sam and Ed, for sending us this so we could react to it. Obviously, neither of us had ever heard it before. I'd be seriously surprised if anyone watching this on YouTube has heard that audio before. I'll be very surprised. But if you have more, please send us more. If you have more, we'll take as much as you can give us. But yeah,
I would kind of like to hear, an audio. Well, obviously, we want to hear the one that he did with Stacy.
Definitely. I mean, from a week earlier.
I'd kind of like to hear the one that he did with John, because he obviously did one with John.
Yeah, he must have. You wouldn't just interview Lana and Lex and not interview Clark, would you?
Yeah.
I wonder if he spoke to TJ Calvert as well, because I mean, there would have been probably some interest in doing it. He's playing the son of Perry White, after all. Like, it's a legacy. It's not a character that had appeared in the comics before, but he's still technically a legacy character.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sam, if you have these audios, or Ed, if you happen to be watching, please send us.
Yes.
Send us as much as you've got. We will react to all of it, because this was, yeah, as I said, thoroughly just wow.
Yeah.
What the words are escaping me, because I don't think the words can do it justice in how I feel having listened to that. But,
yeah, I mean, it's certainly changed our opinions of Scott Wells.
Yeah. Hasn't changed my opinion on his performance, but of the man himself, yeah, I there's a lot more tragedy to him, especially knowing how his life ended in such a sad way, knowing how hard he had clearly worked to get to where he was, sleeping on a beach for a week because he had nowhere to stay, eating nothing but tuna fish out of cans.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. Driving all the way from, like, where did he come from, did he say? But he said he stopped halfway in Texas.
Yeah, he grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and then he came to Florida for college, never finished college.
2 interesting girls, he said, yeah.
Yeah. Then he was trying to move off to LA to, get his big break.
Stopped in Texas for 2 years because he got a modeling job, which is yeah. And all the money he made from his modeling, he put into acting.
Yep.
And that in itself is kind of tragic. But yeah,
it just shows that he
rest
had
in
drive.
peace. Yeah, he had the drive. Things just went wrong for him at a certain point, and it's a real shame.
And who knows?
Rest in peace, Scott Wells, because
who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that overindulgence, as we discussed before, maybe that's what started the downfall.
It probably is. It's the start of the downfall for, let's face it, so many people. Like, that is a difficult industry to make it in and then keep your star in. Like, so many people make it for a short time and then just disappear forever. Yeah, it's a very, very tough industry. And for him to have worked so hard and had nothing to show for it at the very end of his life, I just think that's very, very sad.
Yeah.
But I realise we've ended this show on a bit of a down note. Kind of unavoidable, unfortunately, when we're talking about Scott Wells. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed listening to this interview as much as we have.
And we hope
this was truly an experience.
Yeah, we hope any of you season 1 fans who absolutely hate Scott Wells, I hope you walk away from listening to this, with a maybe you're not going to, change your opinion about his acting, as, Tom just said.
Yeah.
But, maybe
my opinion on his acting hasn't changed, but my opinion on Scott Wells, the human being, it has. I mean, obviously, I'm still taking into account what Michael has told us about how he was acting on set.
Yeah.
But it was clear that by the end of season 1, like, something was wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just very, very sad.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you all so much for watching.
Yep.
Do hope you've enjoyed it. Do hope, like Chris just said, I hope your opinion maybe on Scott Wells has improved slightly. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We will try to do more episodes like this if we can just get hold of some materials like it. Hopefully we'll be able to react to a video of some kind at some point. I know obviously they appeared on talk shows promoting Superboy at the time, and I've never seen any of that material. I've seen screenshots, but that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye.